Hey guys, I wanted to do a video covering what I think are some of the most important details for developing good guard retention. I wanted to put it all in one video because sometimes everything's like in a lot of different places. Just having one reference video you can always go to give you a quick refresher is a great thing. Also guys, if you have any questions or requests, please comment and let me know. It gives me a lot of references for future content to make for you guys. Thanks a lot. So the first main detail when you're doing guard retention is to focus on keeping the person in front of your hips. This can look two main ways. Either I can be on my back flat with my hips facing him like this, or I could even be on my side a little bit with my hips facing him here. The main thing I want to avoid is him being on the opposite side of my hip. So if he's over here, now it's starting to get really hard for me to turn back in to fight. If I'm like this is okay. If he starts to go here, starting to get in trouble. So always keep the guy in front of you, or at least if he's going this way, angle your hip to face him. Either one is okay. Just try not to get turned to the side. The next big one is understanding the idea that for your opponent to pass, they have to get inside your elbow knee space. So if he's going to come to side control here, like come into side control, if my elbow and knee are connected, it's impossible for him to actually be inside. If this is open, go ahead and go down to both knees on the ground. Now he can actually be in side control and be heavy. As long as this is connected, he can't actually be tight. I can always push him off. Okay, so another important detail is using your outside leg to recenter your position. So one common mistake people will make is to start circling this way a little bit, is when the guy goes over here, they want to keep the guy centered in front of them, like I talked about before. So they often reach with their bottom leg to do this. The problem with reaching with the bottom leg is that I'm opening up my elbow knee space, right? The elbow knee space that's the most important to protect is the side he's passing to. If he's going this way and this elbow knee is tight, but this is open, I'm still in trouble. If this is like this, of course I want both tight, but I'm more okay here, right? So often when someone's passing, they're reaching out with this bottom leg. What I want to focus on instead is keeping my inside knee tight and using this outside leg as a way to recenter. That can look a few different ways. It could be on his shoulder. If he's got my pant leg, it could be in his bicep. It could even be a butterfly hook. But using this outside leg allows me to keep this tight and recenter my position. Another big one is using your hands to help recenter. Sometimes I use my feet to recenter, but if the guy step around here a little bit, if I'm like this and he's close enough that I can get my hand either on his shin or his shoulder, I can use this to help center myself. Often people, they're always trying to use their legs, and that can make them open up sometimes. But even if he's like hinged over with your upper body a little bit, if I can grab his arm or say grab my pant leg here like this, I don't want to just use my legs. I can use my hand to help recenter, right? So use your hands off of the shin, off the shoulder, and help recenter using your arms on their body. Another major one is using your elbow frames to prevent your hips from getting turned. So like I talked about, I want to protect my elbow space and use my outside leg to reset. But if my hip gets turned away, so stand about right here, perfect. If my hip gets turned away, it can be hard to use this outside leg to reset, right? So one of the big things I want to do is to try to stop myself from getting turned early. And one way to do that is using my elbow on the floor. If I drive my elbow on the floor, as he pushes this way, push me this way, I can fight with my elbow on the floor. If this is up and I'm reaching too much, sometimes I get turned. But to make it even more powerful, we go elbow on the floor and we frame our hip or our thigh here, so push me this way. And this allows me to keep my hips centered and facing him. Now I can use this outside leg to come over, to go here and help reset. Again, he goes this way, maybe this way, and I use this frame here, keep the elbow tight, frame, and fight to come back. So elbows on the floor, even frame your thigh. Okay, so sometimes you're gonna get turned away anyway, you make a mistake, however it happens. So now my body's turned away, and he's here, and just say I'm kind of like this, get your knee kind of close, right? And he's kind of like here like this. So now here I messed up, I couldn't frame, however I get turned away. One of the most important ways to try to recenter your hip is this forward shrimp mechanic. I have an entire video on it, but just to show it here, I keep my elbow and knee tight. I don't want to drop this because when I open this elbow knee space, I'm in a bad spot here, but when I open it, it gets way worse. So I want to protect this space. I'm going to use my outside leg to post on the floor, and I can recenter my hip so that now I'm at least centered. Now I bring my core tight and I can try to recenter. Notice that in this case, I have my hand on his shin and it allowed me to recenter. Go over here, right? So again, I got turned away, right? I forward shrimp. Now I'm back center. I never gave up this elbow knee space and I can focus on the shin or whatever I can get. Even if this arm is close, I can see how I help recenter to get back. Okay. Another really good one is that if I get turned away in the same situation, so you come around here, and sometimes I can't forward shrimp for whatever reason, if I can ever sneak this bottom leg in, this is one Tommy showed me recently that I really like, is if I get turned away here and I can't go over top, sometimes if you have the distance, you can snake this bottom leg in here. And now as he starts to pressure in and pass here, start getting heavy and stuff, I can use this to create space and frame to try to fight this back. So again, I don't want to get in that situation. I want to keep my hips centered. I want to keep myself facing him. I get thrown away. If I get thrown away, I can try to forward shrimp. If I just can't find it or whatever, if I can snake this in last second in frame, keep going around that way, it allows me to get the space to reset and come back to center. Okay, so another big one is when I'm in the center here, don't have idle legs. I want two things. Keep your feet around 45 degrees, aimed towards his chest. When my feet are low like this, it's easy for him to grab them and pin them down. Now it's hard to get my feet back up, and he can start walking around to the side. He can start trapping a leg to go for knee cuts, and I start to get in trouble. By keeping your feet angled at like 45, even if he grabs my ankles, my feet can now go to the biceps. I don't have to play spider guard. This can just make it easier to kick off. The other thing is keeping your feet active, right? If I'm just lazy here like this, then he might push them down. But if I'm kind of alternating and I'm moving like this, see, so start grabbing, it's always hard for him to make a grip. And this makes it harder. As well, keeping your feet up does a couple of other benefits. One is it makes it easier to keep my knees tight. To make an extreme, if I have my feet on the floor, I can't put my knees tight. If I have my feet 1 inch off the floor, I can't keep my knees tight. So the higher my feet go, the easier it is to keep my knees in. Be careful not to go too high because you can get stacked. So I like to stay around the middle and alternate feet. So if I have one high, one low, it's hard to stack and it's hard to push down. So I'm alternating. Another benefit of having your knees tight and your feet up is it's easier to move, right? If you imagine spinning a book, it's hard to spin because there's not much pressure on the floor. Right? But if you have like a top, it spins. So the tighter I am with my feet up here, so stand about right here, look how easy I can spin, right? I'm way more fast at moving when my knees and feet are up. When you're low like this, it's harder to move and be agile. Okay, so another big one is when I'm on my back and my feet are moving, is use your hands to deflect his initial grips. Even if I don't grab the sleeve per se, just having my hands makes it hard for his initial grip. I can do this and he's gonna start grabbing, but sometimes he maybe makes a quick grip or his forearm's in the way, it's tough. But now if as he's trying to make a grip, it's almost like a kung fu, like sticky hands kind of thing where I'm just deflecting. So if we go slow motion, as he's trying to grab my ankle in slow motion here, if I'm deflecting, it's hard for him to make an initial grip. Then I can feel where his hand is and start trying to establish some kind of an initial grip to start getting a control. I can't do any offense until I get a control. So while I'm here, I'm not just moving but start trying to grab something. I'm always deflecting with my hands like this until I can get a grip to start establishing. It may even be that he stands kind of close, right? And then I grab an ankle and start building. That's one of the big things with guard retention. We don't want to defend forever. We eventually want to lock the guy up in some kind of a control. So looking more in depth at when do we sit up. So the main thing is my job when I'm in guard is to try to establish an initial grip on him that I can build off. And that's going to depend on the guards that I know. So if I know how to build off of a collar sleeve game or an ankle control game like De La Hiva, collar sleeve, double sleeve, it's very easy to get an initial grip. But if you don't know any initial guards, it's hard at first. So that's why it's important to build open guards. So when I'm here, I'm defending, but I'm also looking to get my initial grip. But sometimes guys will back up, right? So he backs up because he's being very grip fighting, right? So now it's hard to get a grip. But when he gives me space, this is when I'm going to do a technical sit-up, right? So I'm going to go here, I block, I come up on one elbow, and now I'm going to scoot away really quick and get distance. When I get distance, it's hard for him to make a quick move. Now I can properly grip fight from here and do what I want. In general, passing the guard is much harder for him when I'm sitting up. So from here, I can now grab a lapel, I can start building. If I don't like what he's doing, I can back up. I could even stand up from here and start doing takedowns or whatever you want. So once we've established a setup position, now my primary goal is to try to set up a guard. One big mistake people make is when they're setting up, trying to set up whatever control they want to play, which is going to be dependent on the guards you like to play, is they're too comfortable just sitting here in the center waiting. If I make a big mistake when I'm sitting up, like here if he grabs my shoulder and just steps around really quick, it's much harder for me to recover because when I'm on my back, if he steps around over here, I can come back over with my foot to try to defend, right? But if you make a mistake when you're sitting up, the consequences are much bigger because now when he's around here, I can't really fall to my back. He's already almost on my back. Even if I do, he's already halfway past. So it's very important when you're sitting up to try to keep distance. So if I'm here and I'm grip fighting here, start getting close, I try to back up, I keep distance and I fight from a distance, almost like a jab in boxing. Now maybe I get a sleeve or a collar and then I can fall and start setting up a control from a distance and safety. So make sure you're careful about how close your opponent is to you. Keep the distance, get the grip you want, and then fall back into the position you want. The ultimate goal with guard retention is for you to establish a guard. You don't want to be doing guard retention forever because eventually you'll make a mistake or you'll get tired, right? So your goal is to establish a grip that you know. If you don't have any grips you know, then that's one of the most important things to do. You have to develop a few basic entry guards. Usually my recommendations in the beginning are collar, sleeve, De La Riva, holding the ankle. I have videos on all these, and double sleeve. So double sleeve, collar sleeve, and ankle sleeve, ankle collar. Developing on those 4 positions, and the reason for that is they're so accessible. If your only guard is close guard, when the match starts, it's like, I can't just close guard. He's not gonna give it to me. But getting one sleeve, maybe he grabs here, I break the grip and I lasso, and now I have collar sleeve. If I spend a lot of time here, I know how to build from here. As I have more initial controls, I know how to play collar sleeve on both sides. I know how to play De La Riva with the sleeve, De La Riva with the collar, double sleeve. Then no matter what grips he puts at me, I know how to build. So whatever he grabs, I go here. If he grabs with the other hand, I can break here and play collar sleeve on this side. If his hands are back and his foot is close, right? I could grab De La Riva, and I always know how to build. But if you don't have that many guards that you know how to control, you can develop good guard retention, but eventually you're going to get tired because you don't have an end goal. So your end goal is always to establish a control that you know. So make sure on top of the guard retention, you're investing in developing your ability in these positions so that you have an end goal in sight. Again, if you guys have any requests or questions, please comment and let me know. It gives me a lot of reference to make future content to help you guys. Thanks a lot.